everybody, and welcome back to the OJ podcast, where it's me, Jami, and I am all alone for today's episode about the Canadian Grand Prix. Olivia is on vacation, so she cannot record. So it is just me now because all of our other friends are also very busy people and are unable to record this with me. So here I am, still making sure we get this recording in even though it is 10 p.m. at night the day before this is supposed to be uploaded because I am a busy woman also because I have 2 more weeks and then I am done with my third year in college. So, gotta get through these like last final moments before I am done. But I am here today to talk about the Canadian Grand Prix. And gotta say, it was an interesting one. I think after the regulation changes that they had, the races have been a lot more fun. There is still Mercedes dominance, but that might change for Monaco because Mercedes needs to change their engine ratio, which people are thinking they're going to lose 0.3 per lap from that engine ratio changes, which might bring others into the field like the Ferraris or the McLarens, maybe even the Red Bulls. The Red Bulls have been doing decent. But this weekend was a sprint weekend, so we only had one practice, which was actually a pretty interesting practice. The Canadian Grand Prix is known for having a lot of safety cars and a lot of fun racing moments, in which it delivered this weekend. One thing they were testing out during practice was lights on the car to signify how much battery the car in front of someone had. So it'd be the lights were in the back of the car, just to let the drivers know about things, so something like the Ollie Bearman crash wouldn't happen again. I don't know. We'll see if the drivers like this. This was a driver like a driver's desired thing. A lot of the drivers wanted this. So that will determine if this stays or if this goes, is how well it went during practice. First off, we started with Franco having to crawl back to the pits on a car that I think it would not change gears if I can remember correctly. And he could no longer, he never came back out for the rest of the practice. Liam also had mechanical problems and was out, which caused a virtual safety car that turned into a red flag because they couldn't move the car right away. It took them some time to get the car off of the track because that's where he ended. They extended the time for 4 minutes because of that. Sadly, next up, Alex had ran over a groundhog, which caused him to crash. R.I.P. Gary the groundhog. That was a very sad moment. Which caused another red flag. This one took a lot longer because there was a lot of debris. This was an actual crash and stuff. Took a while to get the car off. All of that. So practice was extended for another 20 minutes because this was the only practice during the weekend. They really wanted to give the drivers the time to be able to get up to speed for the track and how the cars work on the track. George had a little spin and tapped the barrier. He was very lucky. He could easily, if he had any more momentum, he would have crashed. Like, he would have damaged the car. But nope, he got away scotch-free. And then Esteban had a moment where he went just like straight on into the barrier, lost the whole front wing and nose. The car kind of looked funny, but he was actually able to get back to the pits. But that also caused another red flag, and it was only with like a minute left, so nothing really happened after that. For sprint quali, I gotta say, sprint quali was chaos. Normal quali, not so much, but sprint quali was actually a lot of fun. In SQ1, Alex and Liam did not start, so both of their cars were not be able to get ready from the practice to the sprint quali to be able to run. Alonso is known for being very good at the Canadian Grand Prix. If you look in the past couple of years, he was always in top 10. Like, he is very consistent with that. But I did not expect him to be able to do anything with the car he has. The Aston Martin has not had any upgrades or anything so far, so like I wasn't really expecting much from that car, but he was really pushing it. It was very interesting to see. Um, Carlos was also doing super well this weekend, which goes to show from like Miami to now. The Williams has been getting better. I think they're losing a lot of the weight that was their problem at the beginning of the season, and they're coming into the midfield again instead of being one of the back markers. Um, Eventually, Fernando Alonso hits the wall, and this causes a red flag. Obviously, it's quali, you always get red flags. But the biggest moment was there was only a minute 46 left on the clock, so only a few drivers could get out afterwards and try to get another lap in before the time went out. But there was a lot of drivers that obviously wanted to get another lap in because they were in the elimination zone. So it was kind of a race to get out as quickly as you could after the red flag was drawn. And in the end, Stroll and Sainz were the only ones to make it through, which definitely Stroll had a chance to get out of the elimination zone. He did not. He was not able. He did not improve his time very much to get out of that elimination. So it ended up being Lawson, Albon, Bottas, Gasly, Stroll, and Perez as our six that were eliminated in SQ1, which shows Alonso was able to make it through even though he crashed. He obviously crashed. Carlos in SQ2 like just made it into 10th at the last possible second. He was the last person to get that last fast lap in, like perfect timing on Williams's part to get that lap in. So the next eliminated were Alonso, Behrman, Ocon, Colapinto, Bortoleto, and Hulkenberg. And then SQ3, I don't have any note of anything interesting happened. There was a lot of moments of who's going to take it. We all know who was going to take it in the end. So it's Russell, Antonelli, Norris, Piastri, Hamilton, Leclerc, Verstappen, Hajar, Lindblad, and Sainz, who are in the order of 1st to 10th. For that, the sprint. So for the sprint, Albon, Bottas, Gasly, and Behrman were starting from the pits, which is unusual in the first place. So we already got something fun happening. I loved the sprint this weekend. Stroll had to be pushed out with car problems before the formation lap. So he was going to start from the pits, but he ended up never being, I don't think he was ever able to, I can't remember. Mercedes for once had a good launch off the start, which was a very shocking moment for everyone, I think. I was totally expecting the Ferrari and McLaren to get past them or get at least past Kimi. They did not. Lewis was able to get in front of Oscar because we know the line that Oscar was on is just not that good when it comes to Canada. It's really hard to get a lot of good starts off of that. And it shows throughout the whole thing. Like, Isaac didn't get a good start off the line either. Kimi was obviously worse than George, but that's to be expected. There was a big Kimi versus George battle this entire weekend. This entire weekend really felt like a world championship battle between teammates. A lot of people thought it was similar to Brocedes. It'll never be similar to Brocedes. And so in this battle, they touch and Kimi goes off. Kimi also goes super wide, allowing Lando through. Kimi thought George pushed him off, which he goes, that was very naughty. And completely was crashing out on the radio for everyone to hear. Kimi was yelled at by Bono twice before Bono had to bring in the big guns, and Toto yelled at him and said he was moaning to stop moaning on the radio. So Kimi was not having it during the sprint. Isaac had car problems, and so since they had to pit, it was pretty much a practice for him. He was going around pitting, like just practicing, seeing what he could do with a car. Alex also did that similar thing. Alonso did it too. Alex doesn't move properly away for George, and George complains on the radio, which I thought was funny because the best friend's complaining. Hulkenberg had a 10-second penalty for going off track and gaining an advantage, so he didn't give the place back afterwards. Oscar had a very epic last-minute pass on Lewis. I loved it as an Oscar fan. It was a great moment. I was literally yelling at my screen because I have his onboard on, and I was just like, Oscar, go, go, go. Come on, Oscar. It was literally the last lap. Kimi got yelled at again by Toto to shut up and was like, we need to talk about these things together as a team and not on the radio, because Kimi was like, oh, if that's what racing we're gonna do, we should, like, you should tell that or something. I can't remember. Sorry to all of my friends who are Kimi fans. I cannot remember what he said, and I should have wrote it down. For quali later that day, quali was kind of boring in my opinion. Not much really happened as much as like the sprint quali. So in Q1, Bottas, Stroll, Perez, Alonso, Albon, and Ocon were out. Q2, George started having some car problems, which I was really hoping would continue through and he wouldn't get pole, but also I predicted him on pole, so I was happy. Isaac actually got fastest in Q2, which was very interesting. It shows that the Red Bull was really strong here in Canada. For the elimination, it was Behrman, Sainz, Gasly, Bortoleto, Lawson, and Hulkenberg. So George couldn't get a proper first lap for his first fast lap. Unlike everyone else, he had no time on the board and was actually in 10th at that moment. So he goes out early for a second fast lap, and he actually goes 2 in a row to just get that time that he needs. And he does indeed take pole from Kimi at the last second. And so then George, Kimi, Lando, Oscar, Lewis, Max, Isaac, Charles, Arvid, and Franco round out the top 10. One sec. My MacBook. Okay, there we go. Whew. My MacBook almost updated while I was filming this, and I was like, yeah, no. For the race on the epic day of motorsport, where we had the Canadian Grand Prix, the Indianapolis 500, which was a very interesting race. There was a lot of last-minute moments there, along with the Coca-Cola 600, which is NASCAR. I kind of paid attention to that, but I didn't actually watch it like the other two. Before the race, Stroll and Bottas started in the pit lane, and then we had the moment that destroyed the race. I was so upset as a McLaren fan. The McLaren started on inters. It had been raining. I will give them that. But clearly, it was only light rain. The track was really dry. There was no wet spots. Like, clearly, it was slicks. And even Oscar and Lando agreed that it should have been slicks. They were begging on the radio, especially Oscar. Like, I don't know what all Lando said, but I have Oscar's radio. Usually I have that up too. And they showed a lot in the broadcast also. Oscar was begging the entire time when they had 2 extra formation laps to just put on slicks and start from the pit lane. He wanted that more than anything, because that he could have charged up the field, gotten past all the faster ones. They could have had a different strategy. Like, he was begging, and they just did not listen to his begging. And I think maybe it could have gone better if they didn't have 2 extra formation laps. But alas, Arvid was having car problems, and they had to have 2 extra formation laps to get his car off the grid, and he ended up not starting the race. And McLaren decided that they were betting on the slicks won't get to temperature, and there would be a safety car. In which maybe they were smart for a little bit because Lando did get to first on the start, but Lewis was in fourth, Oscar fell to fifth, Isaac was behind Charles, Kimi ends up in front of George. Oscar ends up hitting the first lap. They keep Lando out, trying to get him further ahead of everyone else, but Kimi was right behind him. He was on inters. They were tearing. Like, he had no grip. Everything was a problem. So Lando ends up hitting along in the second lap, along with a lot of the other inter tires. The McLarens weren't the only ones, but they were third and fourth. Third and fourth should not have taken that risk, but they did. We got back to Mercedes wheel-to-wheel action. They were definitely going at each other. Kimi locks up eventually. Max overtakes Lewis on lap 9. Kimi and George were slingshotting a lot. It was a lot of back and forth between those two. Oscar, I don't remember. I think this is on lap like 18. Oscar, while trying to pass Ollie Behrman, takes the chance to try and pass Alex as well on the chicane and ends up ramming into him, taking Alex out. And Oscar had to pit for a new wing because he completely destroyed his wing, and he also sustains damage for the rest of the race. So it was a bad day for McLaren because Lando then ends up pitting for reliability issues right after that because something was going wrong with the car. We later learned that there was some damage or debris in the car that was like heating up the engine or something. So I think that pit was for them to try to get it out, which later on, they didn't. Kimi goes back to taking the lead on lap 20. Oscar gets a 10-second penalty for causing a collision. Makes sense. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about that. Oscar ends up apologizing to Alex afterwards. Like, he was like, it's not intentional, but I'm sorry, blah, blah, blah. Alex fully was like, oh, I get it. It happens. He kind of brushed it off as well. So both of them were very, very cool about that happening. Kimi and George got wheel-to-wheel touching. Was no damage at all. And Kimi goes up, but he has to give the position back because he goes out. And then Fernando retires on lap 27. So we continue with the lovely Aston Martin problems. I don't know why he pit or why he retired or anything. Nothing was said on the broadcast, and I haven't seen anything since. George ends up going off and stops at lap 30, and there's a virtual safety car. And so George is now out completely from the race, which he's definitely not a happy camper about at first. He threw his head thing off onto the track, which he now has. It is a fine of 5,000 euros, suspended for 12 months. So if he does something similar again, that's when he'll get fined. Otherwise, he doesn't get fined, which I think is a little interesting because the reason for the fine and stuff is because that is a safety issue, is him throwing that off into the track for another driver or whatever. Another marshal that has to grab it, all of that. It's just a reliability and safety issue, or not a reliability, a safety issue. So it is interesting that they didn't actually fine him because obviously 5,000 euros does absolutely nothing for his paycheck. Like, nothing. But yeah, he was not a happy camper. He had some angry moments as he was getting out of the car. He sat there depressed on the sidelines staring at his car as it was getting pushed back into the pits and all of that. So it's an interesting moment in the championship fight because George afterwards was like, I think I'm completely out of it now. Like, the gods don't want me, like, all of this. But we know that as of like 2025 is a real show that you can come back from having a really bad start to the season. I know right now the gap is much larger than Lando and Oscar ever were, or Lando and Max, whatever. Well, Lando and Max were actually a big, yeah. Kimi can fully have a Kimi moment, and George can have a full Max moment. Like, things can happen where George can come back in this fight. I don't think he needs to be so downtrodden immediately after only 5 races. There's still so many races left to go. So I do think that this isn't the end, but I think in those moments he felt like it was, because it does feel like the end, because now your almost rookie teammate has won 4 of his races in a row, and all 4 of, and his that was after his first ever win. So, and Kimi's breaking records with all of these wins and stuff, doing things no other driver has done. It's just it feels like a lot probably for him, especially cuz this was a monumental moment where everyone was telling him he needed to win, and like everyone was like, yes, Canada is George's track, like he's gonna win. Like, I betted on him winning because this is his track. He's very good in Canada. He won last year and he's had pole position multiple times. Like, he is very good in Canada. So I understand his disparity, but I do think he should look at the light, maybe go to a psychologist, like definitely talk to someone, anyone, to kind of get back in the right headspace to fight for this championship. Um where was I? Yeah, so that was the first VSC. Lando actually ends up retiring from the light race on lap 40. He really said, "Oh, all of the other 2019 rookies are out. I'm gonna go too." He, like I said, he was having car problems where damage or whatever debris in the car was actually making the engine heat up, and so it just wasn't a good thing. We did have a great moment of they were trying to get uh Lando through the crowd of people, and he's just smiling and waving, and he just looks like the people's princess. Like, I think that was the biggest moment to show the world that Lando is actually really loved in the F1 community, compared to what a lot of the internet says, where a lot of people are saying like he's a very hated driver and all this, but like people were crowding him to try to get as near to him as he could. People were screaming at him from the grandstands. It really just shows he is a loved driver, because if he was hated so much, he wouldn't be crowded around. But that was a really funny moment. I was like, whoa, wow. That's a moment. Perez had a really funny moment where his suspension just implodes on him. He's going into the pits for some reason. I don't know what, if it was just he needed another tire or whatever. He's going in and he's slowing down, and his suspension just, like, it just explodes on him. So he's out on lap 43. He gets into the pits and stuff. Isaac gets a 10-second penalty due to moving under braking. This was a moment with Lewis where Lewis was like, whoa, that could have been bad. Like, it was one of those it was like an Ollie Behrman crash moment where it could have gone way worse if Lewis didn't react properly, and Isaac was kind of moving around too much to defend, which caused the 10-second penalty. We get a virtual safety car on lap 46 to pick up the debris from Perez's suspension. Which, another great and enjoyable moment of this race was during when the marshal went out to go pick up that debris, and he comes back. He goes through the little hole in the fence, like face first, like swan diving through it. Like, it was so funny. Everyone was laughing at that. There's another virtual safety car on lap 53. I don't know why, I can't remember, but because of that, Isaac, Bottas, and Oscar all served their penalties. I don't remember why Bottas had a penalty and I didn't write it down, sorry guys. And our Oscar so finally switches out his 40 lap old tires. So he was really actually keeping those tires pretty well. I'm surprised by that. But yeah, they all serve their penalties, so they no longer have penalties. Lewis takes second from Max on lap 62. And then the last big moment was Isaac had a stop and go penalty for the yellow flag infringement. I don't know what yellow flag or where it happened. I think they were talking about how it was like so many laps before that they gave the penalty that they were really surprised that they gave the penalty, especially because it's one of the most harshest penalties. But it happened. The podium ends up being my brain is malfunctioning. Kimi, Lewis, and Max. So it was Max's first podium of the 2026 season, and I was so excited for like him. And then Isaac did super well, getting fifth. It was just a great moment when my main team, the McLarens, and my favorite driver Oscar had really bad races, even though Oscar got back up to 11th in the end. Had bad races, but I still had my third favorite driver, Max Verstappen, right there. Actually, he's like my fourth. Whatever. He was right there, and Isaac had a good race. And I think, much to my dismay and how much I was seething at the McLarens and everything that happened, while it was happening, I did really enjoy the Canadian Grand Prix. I think it was one of the most entertainings. I might like Miami better, but that might be my McLaren bias. That's why I like Miami better. God, I think my driver of the day, that one's a hard one. Maybe Franco, because he's been so consistent and actually doing so well and like outpacing Pierre and all of that. I think he might be my driver of the day. I really don't have one because I feel like I don't know anyone that really charged up the field. Maybe Ollie, but like there was a bunch of crashes that caused him to be in points. Like it's really hard to tell. My favorite radio of the weekend had to be Kimi going That Was Naughty. That one was just funny. So I enjoyed that. And then on to our last segment that we do for every single race is our fantasy and predictions. For predictions, we'll start with that one because there's less people and hopefully my phone will load. I am known to be good at predictions. If this is the first one you've ever watched, I actually didn't do the greatest. I only got 40% correct, which 44% is my range, but I didn't actually get a lot of points from for having 40%, unlike other races where I've had 40% and I've gotten in the hundreds because of where I put my 2 times or just kind of what ones I predict correctly. So yeah, for Canada, what did I get right? I got Kimi being on the podium correct, wrong spot. I said 5 teams would score in the sprint. I thought Carlos would get above Franco in the sprint, so I got that one wrong. I put 2 times on George taking pole, which didn't get me much points, but I was pretty confident in that one. I did not think both Racing Bulls would get out of Q1. I thought Red Bull Racing would get the fastest lap, but Racing Bulls got the fastest pit stop. I was correct about Ollie finishing ahead in the Grand Prix. I thought there would be only 2 virtual safety cars / safety cars. There was more than 2. I said Kimi would take the fastest lap, which I got correct. And then I was not wrong for thinking McLaren would get ahead of Ferrari after this weekend in the Constructors' Championship, but you know, they had a really bad strategy moment and just became Ferrari. So I got that one wrong also. For our league, where are we at? Let me see. I am still in first. So I'm still at first with 439 points and 44% correct or like accuracy. Olivia is in second still, 407 at 36%. Ella is in third at 272 at 26%. And Kai is in fourth at 261 at 26%. Olivia had a really good weekend. She got 70% correct, so she did really well this weekend. Kudos to her. And then for our fantasy league has grown. We have gained 2 new friends who wanted. One I pressured, the other one kind of wanted to join because she's been watching F1 with us. Both of them are Kylie. So I will be referring to them as Kylie H and Kylie W because that's the only way I can. So those two are honestly fighting themselves for this fantasy team because they joined so late. So we have Kylie H at 226 points, Kylie White 261, Malik is at 752 in fifth, Kai is at 964 in fourth, Olivia is in third still at 1044. Ella's at 1,155 in second, and I am still in first at 1,202. I will say, Kai has really caught up to us front 3 runners. Olivia was in third last race weekend, and Kai was about 200 points behind, or I think it was 230 points behind her. And Kai is now actually only 100 points behind Olivia exactly, because this week Olivia's team did so bad compared. Honestly, us top 3 teams, me, Ella, and Olivia all did bad. We were all in the bottom because we had Kai winning this week. Kylie W was in second. Malik was in third. Kylie H tied with me for fourth. Ella was in sixth and Olivia was in seventh. But the problem with Olivia in seventh is she wasn't like Kai had the most with 264, and then Ella with the second least was at 221. So we were all very much in the similar range with only a 40-point difference. Olivia was a whole 100 points behind Ella with 113 with her team this week. And so that's what caused Kai to be able to catch up so much to her. And I think Kai is definitely back in the runnings for this championship now. So we will see what happens. And I have a feeling Malik is very sad that Kai has caught up, because Malik's goal was trying to catch up to Kai. And I don't know if he can do it anymore because he's now 200 points behind Kai, but who knows? I had a moment last year at Silverstone where I was in the negatives. I think I got negative 16 or something. So there is still plenty of races to go for our fantasy league. But anyways, guys, that's it for the Canadian Grand Prix. I know this was a really quick episode compared to our others, but that's because I'm alone and I'm basically just telling things to y'all, giving some of my opinions. But it's, like I said, it's 10 p.m. at night. I want to go to bed. But yeah, I hope you guys like this. Go follow and watch all of our other content. We have so many things going on YouTube. We have OJ Games where we're playing games with each other. We have Oscar Dork Ostry, which is just quick edits. We have our F1 for Dummies if you're new to F1 and you want to learn about it. We also have our reaction series, which we've only reacted to Heated Rivalry, but we will be reacting to Off Campus very soon. Those episodes will be coming out. And I think that is it for everything we do on YouTube. Other than you can watch all of our other Grand Prix stuff. But yeah, like and subscribe and just go watch all of our other content. On TikTok and Instagram, we have our short form video content, which is uploaded daily. Whenever I think of fun and interesting things to talk about, that I use it as just whatever. And then Olivia on Wednesdays, sometimes we'll talk about Survivor, but I think that's gone because Survivor has ended. So I don't know if our Twitter will be used very often anymore. I want to get on F1 Twitter, but I just need to download it and I just haven't had the effort. But yeah, follow us all at 2OG Games, OJ 2OJ Games. Jesus, we do not have another account. OJ Games is on the same YouTube account. 2OJ Pod, OJ Pod, and 2OJ Podcast. And we will see you at the next Grand Prix in Monaco. Bye!